the most egregious uh, equity issue in our city is not wealth gaps, it's not rent, it's maternal health.
Compost and cotton and cornrows.
Welcome to the Compost, Cotton, and Cornrows podcast, and I'm your host, Dominique Drakeford. Today, I'm joined by Antonio Reynoso, Brooklyn's borough president, for a powerful conversation on why the most egregious equity crisis is maternal health. From investing into birthing justice to confronting local environmental racism, we explore what it truly means to build sustainable cities that protect Black life at inception. Let's get into it. Thank you so much, Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso. Thank you for joining the pod.
Happy to be here, Dominique. Thank you for the invite. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm excited for the conversation today.
Likewise. And to set the tone and the texture of our conversation, I'd love to know how you define sustainability.
Okay, sustainability. I guess I'm going to do a little bit of my backstory, Dominique, to
Let's do
how
it.
I even got involved in politics and why
Let's do it.
sustainability is so important. Yeah, so I'm a kid from the south side of Williamsburg, born in the 1980s to Dominican immigrants. And, they were extremely poor. And Williamsburg during that time was the place where you would go to get affordable rents because no one wanted to live in Williamsburg back when I was young. And we dealt with a lot of environmental injustices, but as poor people weren't really engaged in understanding why it is that we had to live in that environment. And my sister had asthma, and Williamsburg had 3 times the asthma rates coming into Woodhull Hospital at that time than anywhere else in the city. And Woodhull is still the only hospital that has an asthma emergency unit, like specifically dedicated with asthma masks and just tanks and just a setup to protect people against asthma attacks and so forth. And when I was running for office the first time, I wanted to bring in there's a lot of social justice work, but it was like environmental justice work, like how environmental justice and how it affects us. And if we're not involved, we get left behind and these injustices continue to happen. So when I think about sustainability, I just think about how the world needs to operate and we want to make sure that it does that. But it can operate in a way that doesn't affect humans, doesn't affect anyone environmentally. So when I think about sustainability, it's like we have waste. What can we do with waste that makes it so that we're not harming our planet, that we're not harming our people, that we're not harming our local environment? Can we have waste, which is something that is impossible not to have, but manage it in a way that is good for our communities, good for our environment, and good for our people? So that's like a general non-academic understanding of how I see sustainability. It's like making sure that what is necessary, necessary evils, that we manage them the most appropriate way, and that we don't lose our equity lens in like who we're harming when we do this work, and that we see the humanity of it also. That's how I think about sustainability.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that environmental justice centered definition, very much rooted in how do we have equitable systems that are healthy for the people, for the planet, centered in neighborhoods, in community and culture. And so I really love that. And you dove right into where I think I would love to start our conversation. And we briefly spoke about this off air.
Yeah.
I have a 4-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter, and I actually did 2 home births in Brooklyn. Yes. And sustainability as it relates to maternal care and just advocacy around birthing justice is really near and dear to me.
Yes.
And I know I was blown away to hear you talk about safety as it relates to giving birth. And so I'd love to know how you understand maternal care and birthing justice as a sustainability issue and just the work that you're doing around that cause.
Yeah, so I want to also in that one go back to I saw this movie called I think it's called Waiting for Superman, And it was a movie or documentary type movie that was talking about uh, Jeffrey Canada, who opened up a school in Harlem, a high school in Harlem, because he was like, these public schools are not doing what they're supposed to, and I got to protect my black boys mostly. And he opened up the school, and then he found out that they weren't ready. When they got to his school, they were so behind that there was too much remedial work that they needed to do to catch them up. So he was like, I need to expand this school to be a middle school.
Mm.
And then he did middle school work, and he was like, these kids are messed up by elementary school. We've already lost them. I'm going to open up an elementary school, elementary to 12. Then he was like, daycare. Like, we need to go to early childhood education because they're failing there. And then eventually he was like, we need to get
Inception.
them at birth. At birth. That's where it starts. And
Yeah.
if we fail at birth, I'm playing catch up, or they're playing catch up their entire lives.
Mm.
And I went down the rabbit hole of maternal health, being like, how do we do justice in a meaningful way? How do we make it so that our people have a shot and opportunities in life? If we have to start at birth.
Mm.
And the most egregious uh, uh, equity issue in our city is not wealth gaps, it's not rent, it's maternal health. It's the only thing that you will see statistically where someone is 8 to 12 times more likely to die during childbirth than their white counterpart. There's no discrepancy that no one is paying 12 times the amount of rent at somebody else, for example, like in an inequitable way. This is just the most disgusting inequity we have. So I want to deal with it. I want to handle it. I got introduced to these black midwives while I'm at Woodhull Hospital. My wife is in Woodhull Hospital. She's gonna have our first baby, Alejandro. The midwife tells me, Antonio, your wife is 8 times more likely to die than her white counterpart in this hospital. And I was like,
Mm.
what? That's it. That's insane. What can I do? Like, I want to be helpful. We can't let that happen. And she said, right now, you can't do anything because in 6 months, you're not going to be able to break down or systematically break down the inequities that exist regarding to maternal health. And I promised that midwife when I become, if I ever have the influence or the power to affect meaningful change in maternal health, I'm going to go all in and I'm going to do it. So then I become borough president. And Miss Helena Grant calls me. It's like, welcome. Now we expect you to do something about this. I gave all my money, Dominique, all of it, $45 million to our 3 public hospitals. And they're building state of the art maternal health units. And I'm not talking about just paint and new beds and, the dad's got a nicer couch. No, no. We're talking about meditation rooms,
Mm.
tubs that they don't need to use just for birth. They can come during their checkup and just sit in a tub if they want, like just hang out and enjoy the hot tub for all we care. Like, we just want to make this an environment for birthing that like respects the sacredness of birth in a meaningful way. And we want to build that environment and make it that Brooklyn is the safest place for Black women to have babies anywhere in the country. That was the goal. And we're going to get there, Dominique. But I want to talk about sustainability. Is because that birthing experience is the beginning of us keeping these kids on track to healthy lives moving forward. And you talk about sustainability, like that's like human sustainability.
Mm.
And we don't want that mother to worry about food. We don't want her to worry about like mental health issues. We have mental health supports that we're giving them. We do baby showers, Dominique, because a lot of people, their aunties are still in North Carolina. Their grandma is still in Georgia. And like, what are we doing? Brooklyn is your family. We got you. So we'll host a community baby shower. We'll give you gifts, amazing gifts, so that you feel like the village got you. And I'm doing all that work because it starts at birth. And if you're not doing it at birth, you've already lost, one.
Yep.
And two, it's the grossest inequity that exists in our society. And I wanted to close the gap.
I got chills. Woodhall was my emergency hospital in the event that I needed to go to a hospital during my home birth. And everything that you're laying out is so accurate. It's so spot on. And the framing of it being the grossest inequity, I haven't heard it discussed like that before. Like we know so many statistics in terms of the harm that is penetrating our community, but the way in which you abruptly shed light on that is monumental.
And Dominique, and I just want to say the worst part of this
Mhm.
is not the inequity. is that we know how to prevent it from happening, and we don't
Mm,
do it. To know that the solution exists, that the models exist on how we can have healthy births for everyone, and we just don't implement it, is why I gave all my money, because incrementalism means that we're allowing, or we're justifying that Black women's lives are expendable, because we know
mm,
how to keep them alive, but we won't do it. We're gonna just give $1 million here. We're gonna give $50,000 there. We're gonna talk about this issue. We're gonna No. We know exactly what we need to do to save these women's lives, and we're not doing it. So just know that the inequity is one part of it that is terrible, but the
yeah.
other part is that people know exactly how to save these lives, and we're just not doing it. And it's part of like the machinations of like a political world, and like
Mhm.
how unhealthy we are as a country in what we put like our political will or our hearts into.
When you're looking at the medical industrial complex and what you've seen thus far and what you know, what do you think is going to be the biggest hurdle within the maternal ecosystem as you're trying to literally dismantle and rebuild a system that's going to keep us alive in this space?
Yeah, we're in trouble. I want to say this, that the number one thing that we know we can do that can affect change is to have culturally sensitive doctors, for example.
Mm,
But then we go back and we look at the people that are most harmed are Black women, so we need Black doctors. And the amount of Black doctors that exist are rare and few in between. It's not
mm,
enough of them to close the gap here. And then when we think about where are most of our most vulnerable population, which are like Black poor women, they're going to public hospitals. A Black doctor is not working in that hospital. They're working in premier hospitals that give them opportunities to use the latest technology that is really putting them in a position where they can make a name for themselves. Thinking about you know neurosurgeon and so forth. But then we think about maternal health. That's not where the Black doctors are focused. So one, we don't have a lot of them, and two, their focus is not on maternal health.
yeah.
So when a Black doctor walks in a room and sees a Black woman, there's a natural like inclination to protect Black women. So they're listening to what they're saying. When they say that there's pain, they believe that there's pain. When they know that there's like gestational diabetes is something we need to talk about, then they talk about it. They protect it, and that's what we need. So we need to start changing the system at the educational level when we introduce doctors or the medical field in higher education. That's one example of something we need to do that is very difficult for us to handle. But the way to do it, Dominique, is pay Black doctors more.
Mm,
If the solution is a Black doctor, then just give them more money. They would, if the solution was a machine that cost more money, they would pay for it, no problems. It's like, oh, this machine prevents cancer or lets us catch cancer earlier. They'll pay the $7 million to make that happen. It's like, oh, we don't need a machine to save Black lives. What we need is a human to save Black lives. Pay them more. It is an asset. It is something that is gonna save us. So that's one part of it. The other thing is that our federal government right now is dismantling public health, and the where these women traditionally go is a public health system, and the privatization of our public health system is making it so that the access to quality healthcare is leaving our public health system to and the quality and the public health system is the one that's taking care of our most vulnerable population. So I believe the federal government should move away from making it so that insurance companies and private hospitals have any advantages over public hospitals, and that and which doesn't exist right now. And I'll just say one thing there is insurance companies right now pay private hospitals more than they pay public hospitals, and that's another inequity that can be legislatively fixed at the federal level, and we don't do that. So what ends up happening is cities like New York have to give $500 million a year, $500 million to cover the loss in these public hospitals. And what happens is we'll get a conservative uh, uh, governor or a moderate governor that's like, hey, we can't afford this anymore. We're going to allow for this to be privatized. And then when that happens, you will see the destruction of like a sustainable healthcare for poor people, and especially in the maternal health world.
thank you for that level of transparency, and I don't think that a lot of folks are aware of those inner workings um, especially from a financial, a political, from a legal point of view, and just infrastructurally, how essentially this shit is being co-opted,
Yeah.
and the direct attack on Black women's bodies and those who are, disproportionately impacted. And one more thing on this, uh, a friend of mine told me that she heard you speak about the Haitian community in particular and how they are systemically targeted in this space. Can you speak on that a little bit, especially as it relates to Brooklyn ecosystems?
Yeah. So, so Haitian women are the most vulnerable. A lot of the reasons. So, like, I want to be clear. Like, this is not a poverty issue. This is a
Yeah,
race issue. So, I also want to talk about how national legislation is made it so that we can't pay or fund things based on race. It has to be. It could be economically, but you can't do it on race because it's biased. You can't allow for Black women to swim somewhere and then white women swim another day. So they need that segregation. So when we talk about addressing a racial issue, we have to help everyone and hope that in that pool of everyone, we're catching the target population. So that's one
right.
thing that like I wanted to and Haitian women are the most vulnerable. And it comes about because of historical health complications. And it is directly tied to slavery. And the issue there is that the exposure to heat exhaustion, now we have extensive diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, all historical health complications that came from terrible diets and the slave environment that they were working under, right? Like all those things made it so that now the original, remember that Dominican Republic or Hispaniola, we want to call it, was the landing spot for the slave Atlantic trade system. So now, 200 years later, 300 years later, these historical health complications are still existing in Black
Right.
women in not only in the Caribbean, but in America. And case in point is someone that I consider like a superhuman that is rich,
Mhm.
right? Serena Williams. Serena Williams is physically like, the she's in the top 1% of the 1% physically, and she has loads of money, and she almost died during childbirth because it wasn't about her money and it wasn't about her physical well-being, of which she was top 1% in both. It was because she's Black, and it's about race, and it's about historical health complications that she can't run from. Her money in one generation or in her lifetime, her money cannot compensate for the years, the centuries of destruction that were done to her people, of which she is a descendant of. So Haitian women were the first Black people of the Western Hemisphere, or the first freed slaves of the Western Hemisphere. And they started dismantling a lot of now they're eating, their diets are changing and so forth, but they were the original. So now they come to America and those health complications still exist. And we have a lot of work to do to undo that work. But yes, Haitian women are the most vulnerable population in the world when it
Yeah.
comes to birthing.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think what you're speaking to as well is the accumulation of environmental racism,
Yes.
right? Especially as it relates to Haitian folks. Um, when we are looking at the food we're eating, the environment and the conditions with which we have to work in, when
Yes.
we're thinking about stress, all the things that accumulate in our bodies and in our environments that make the conditions treacherous, so that even when you get into birthing spaces, there are internal and external complications, and you're put in a system that doesn't give a damn and wants to make money from those complications.
Absolutely.
And so and just thinking on a macro scale, and sort of pulling back and dialing back on the environment at large, right? When you're looking at Brooklyn today, where do you see most clearly the environmental conditions that are shaping the life expectancy? And what is your approach to sustainability in order to change and mitigate environmental racism, particularly in Brooklyn?
Yeah. So let's talk about the most vulnerable location, which is Central Brooklyn. Let's say Flatbush, East Flatbush, Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy, where it's largely like um, what I call like Caribbean black and an American black. Let's say it
Mhm,
like
mhm.
that, just for the sake of the conversation here.
I got you, I got you.
And in that environment right there, which is where they're the most vulnerable, um, uh, the food, for example. I want to start with the food. You could go into any of these bodegas, and if you find a healthy drink, you'll be very lucky. I'm from Williamsburg, and back in the day it was like that, but things have changed. I
Right.
walked into a bodega in East Flatbush, and all sugary drinks. The 50 cents little Debbie's all over the place. So just like the food access is systemically that way, right? Because the healthcare system is not about keeping you healthy; it's about making money for them. So they need to keep you alive,
Mhm.
right? But continuing to come into their hospitals or their doctors' offices. That's very important to them, in their system. So the environment that we're producing for them there, that's the first thing. The second thing is because another thing is their environment. The heat index in Brooklyn. I did a comprehensive plan and found the heat index. There are places in Brooklyn where on the same day it's 10 degrees warmer in the black neighborhoods than it is in the white neighborhoods. It's 10 degrees. That means you could go to Park Slope and it's 80 degrees and walk to Brownsville and it's 90 degrees. And that's a lot of factors. That's a heat index. I want to be clear. It's not just degrees. It's a lot of other things. For example, there's less trees in those neighborhoods. And people are like, oh, trees, yeah, they're cute. No, the
Mhm.
trees are not important for air quality, but also heat quality in that they provide shade, but also keep the concrete underneath your feet from heating up and that heat from the concrete coming up and affecting you. The heat index is important because hypertension and um, there's another issue are
Heat exhaustion.
exacerbated,
Mhm.
or are exponentially increased in your threats to life when that happens. These areas have the least amount of trees in the city of New York. The next thing that they don't have are quality parks. They have a lot of parks, and Bed-Stuy has the most parks in all of Brooklyn, but they're all blacktop. They gave us handball courts, basketball courts, and open cement fields. We don't have grass. We don't have hills, grassy hills and knolls. We don't have great lawns. They don't have any of that. These kids are playing in metal and concrete jungles.
Yeah.
And so even though they have parks, they don't have quality parks that expand on that. So we have food insecurity. We have a heat index issue. We have their open space where they're supposed to be getting healthy are concrete for all intents and purposes. All those things combined make it so that we have a crisis on health here in the city. And what they do is they don't fix the parks, they don't provide higher quality healthcare, they don't add more trees. What they do is move you into the healthcare system. They give you pills.
Yep.
They don't make you healthy. They mitigate your health uh, they mitigate your health issues. They don't care for your health issues. So those are two different worlds. So those are things also in our that we feel in these areas that are like impacting the environment, impacting outcomes for our people.
Yeah. Systemically targeted communities that are continuously not protected by clean air, unsafe housing, food that is trash, lack of community care. These are all environmental detriments, and it's a huge sustainability issue. I often frame these as sustainability issues, but in your space, often they're probably termed as what, public health and things of that
Exactly.
nature.
Yes. Yes.
Um, I'd love to know, because everything that you discussed, I believe, is packaged in what you call your comprehensive plan, correct?
Yes.
Which is really dope. I feel like it is such a strong, like, manifesto and rubric and almost toolkit, if you will, that is literally meant to bring sustainability back in for the people, for the culture, for community. I'd love to hear you give just an overview of your comprehensive plan, but I think more poignantly, I'd love to know what sparked or
Hmm.
inspired the need
Yes.
for a comprehensive plan, this playbook that is necessary for Brooklyn?
Yeah, I appreciate you even talking about it, Dominique. So the first thing I want to say, I'm a Latino elected official, and you know, a lot of the people think that the way we make progress is through identity politics.
Mm,
They don't necessarily think we're smart, we're hardworking, and that we have something to contribute to the greater good in politics. And I've always been conscious of that. And in my early years in politics, I definitely experienced that. People expected very little of me, and I wasn't born that way. And I don't know, I didn't appreciate it, but I always said, I'm gonna do it with the work. I'm gonna show work that I work harder than them, that I'm smarter than them. And being the borough president, the first Latino borough president in a mostly black and white borough from North Brooklyn, there's never been a progressive North Brooklyn elected official elected to Borough Hall. It's always been a centrist establishment Democrat. And what I did really well was show my work. And when I got to Borough Hall, I was like, I want to help the whole borough. But I'm from North Brooklyn. I don't know what's happening in half of these places. And I haven't been to half of these places. So let's do data. I'm not gonna use anecdotes to dictate like how I work. I want data to drive how I work. And I'll give you one example of like how it led me there. I was talking to a pastor from a church, and he saw my comprehensive plan. He says, "You know what? I've been caring for my church based on its congregants, not on its environment." So when Miss Johnson comes in, is like, "Oh, I got diabetes." So he's just like, "Okay, so I want to have like a diabetes forum, or I want to see what I can do to be helpful to them." And what he noticed is that that district didn't have diabetes was not their number one issue. It was actually something else. Let's say high cholesterol was their biggest issue. But he's doing work in a very micro level, and he took the comprehensive plan. Was like, oh my God, my people are suffering with so many issues. And I need to prioritize my advocacy based on the issues affecting the people around my church. And that's exactly what I wanted to do, because what ends up happening in politics is that the greasy, the what is it, the creaky wheel gets the oil. It's just the people that make the most noise get the most love. And I don't like that. I feel like screaming and having opportunity to be outside, it's a privilege. It's a privileged position.
yep,
You know why? Because Miss Johnson, with two grandbabies that she's taking care of on the weekend, she's just not going to be in these streets.
yep.
But it doesn't mean she's not suffering. So I wanted to use data to make my decision. So I decided that I was going to do a comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is also a foundational like document that I'm presenting to the city at large, letting them know that we need to think about what we're doing. We can't just do what we're doing. And I felt like the previous mayor, for example, woke up every day and just like where the wind would take him. It's like, that's not how you work. We need to be systemically thoughtful about every stage of the injustices that exist in our system and attack them thoughtfully and creatively. And it was based on health, Dominique. So health was the foundational fact. Like, let's do comprehensive planning, because back in the day, in the 1800s, when planning was invented at DCP, the Department of City Planning here in this city, was invented. It was invented because people were living next to, like, they have residential uh, areas right next to industrial parks, and those people were suffering with terrible healthcare. So they did zoning to separate them. It's like industrial, commercial, and then put the residents over here. So like there's not a conflict. That was the basis of planning, but we ran away from them. So I decided I was going to do the comprehensive plan, and in it outline all the reasons why our communities are suffering. So now somebody comes and is like, Antonio, I want, uh, we don't need trees here. What we need is this. It's like, I go page 725. It's like, actually, no, you need trees. You can't contest data and information. And that's what I'm going to give you. You could be mad at me because I didn't do what you wanted, but I'm doing what the people need. And it depoliticized my position, Dominique, in a really meaningful way. Because now people weren't calling me asking for favors or asking for things. I was like, if it's in the comprehensive plan, you call me and I'll do it. If it's not in the comprehensive plan, I can't help you, because I need to systemically start solving for these issues. And we can't get to the root causes if I'm always doing the things that people make the most noise about versus the things that people actually need. So that was the kind of the birth of it. But the last thing I want to say, Dominique, is Mr. Carl Thomas, not the singer. Some people don't even, there's a lot of, I guarantee you got a bunch of young people that probably listen to your podcast. I'm
Right.
talking about a different Carl Thomas. He was one of the first, I think, 7 Black men that graduated from the college that I went to in Syracuse. He told me, Antonio, you are too poor not to plan. That's what he told me. He says, you need a 5, 10, and 20-year plan. And every single day you wake up and every action you take should be getting you closer to achieving your goals. And I've been a planner ever since. I'm always thinking long term. And I was like, this city doesn't think long term at all. We do everything, it's all crisis all the time. There's no thoughtful. So the birth of my planning mindset, it comes from Carl Thomas. But then being an elected official and seeing the squeaky wheel getting the oil versus the actual people that need the work getting the work, that kind of is like how it was birthed. Yeah.
I'm a moonwalk a little bit
Sure.
because you mentioned the previous mayor, and I'm rolling my eyes. We're not gonna talk about him.
Okay.
But I'd love to know what exactly is the difference between a Brooklyn Borough president versus the mayor versus
Yeah.
council members. I don't know if people actually really know.
Well, they don't. They don't know. And the political class, we understand this very clear, but the general public is just like, who are these people and what do they do?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a crash course here.
Yes,
So
please.
I'm going to start with only city government. All right. And so city government is city council, the mayor, the public advocate, um, the mayor, the controller, and the borough presidents. That's it. And I'm going to explain it from top to bottom. The city council, they write laws. They're the legislators of the city of New York. So every law you see that exists has been birthed through the city council. They're the ones in charge of passing laws. They are also in charge of what we call land use. So if there's a rezoning happening in your district, or there's some growth or you see some new buildings sparking up, that came from the city council. Those are their 2 strongest purviews, are
Mm.
the land use and legislation. The mayor's office is more like the purse. They got all the money. They control the money. So the mayor's office is the one that who pays for the Department of Transportation, who pays for your schools, who pays for the police department, the fire department. They manage all that, and they have almost full control and autonomy as to how all these agencies work for the city of New York. So if there's a piece of legislation that is passed that says we want to open up the mayor's office of maternal health, for example, they pass that legislation. The mayor has to open that office, but he's the one that funds it. He's the one that manages it. But the introduction of that came from the city council asking for that passing legislation and making that happen. So think about the mayor as the money guy. Think about the the council as the brain people. They're the ones that think about how to make things happen, and the land use. Then we are local executives. So we're considered county executives. So we have to look after like civic engagement at the grassroots level, right? So we have to figure out a way to get people to understand government and be a part of it. And we do that through something called community boards. Those community boards, we appoint people to them and then they get active, and they're supposed to be feeding us information about what's happening on the ground as a direct connect to the people of the communities. So that we're not speaking on behalf, like speaking from a glass, ivory tower or whatever it
Ivory
is.
Tower. Mhm.
We're speaking because people are coming up. We also have 5% of the city's budget comes to every single borough president based on poverty rate, land size, and population. And then we use that money, like I did, for example, to maternal health work, for example. So we're considered county executives. We get some money and we are do like basic civic engagement. And then we have the public advocate who only has one job. The public advocate's only job through the city charter is to be there if the mayor is missing or passes away. He or she then becomes the mayor. That's the only job. There's a Republican that makes fun of the public advocate's office because he doesn't think it should exist. And he says the public advocate needs to wake up at 8 in the morning, call the mayor. If the mayor picks up, say good morning, hang up, and that's it. If the mayor doesn't pick up, he gotta start getting to work. Technically, the public advocate's only real role is to be there should the mayor be in trouble some way, somehow. But people like Letitia James, Jumaane Williams, Bill de Blasio, they transformed the office to be one where it's like, can we find issues that are important and use this platform to speak on those issues? So they've become advocates, actual advocates. So they've changed the role of that office, not legally, but through the work they've done by outfitting the office with the right people and so forth. And then you have the controller who just manages the money. Make sure that when the mayor says, "Oh, I'm giving $1 billion to the police department," that's all he's giving. That he's not lying to the people. That they're not losing money. That contracts are not being given to their cousins. Those that so he polices the money. So he makes sure that the mayor doesn't go wild and spend the money in an irresponsible way. So that's it. The mayor is the money. The controller is the make sure that he polices the money. The public advocate speaks on behalf of the people, but is there to replace the mayor should anything happen. The borough presidents are local executives that are like civic engagement and funding for larger projects. And then the city council is there to pass laws and control land use. That's kind of the best I can do here. It's a lot
No,
more
that
complicated
was
than that, but
such
I
a
hope.
great
Okay.
rudimentary, breakdown of what that political ecosystem looks like. Thank you for that.
So
So
that
when we
when
look at
when people are pointing figures, it's
yeah,
definitely important to know where your target is. In basic
exactly.
organizing 101, you need to know who you're angry at. You can't just be angry at every elected official for every reason. You pick the right ones, and that's right.
Yeah, 100%, and it also speaks to local politics when it comes to voting, right? We and needing to know what each person stands for, what they do, what they have the power to do.
Right.
So when we're looking at your comprehensive plan for Brooklyn, essentially, there's nobody in your way who can stop the execution of this sustainability module that you're trying to create.
Right. So when I did the comprehensive plan, I also don't like to. I want to make sure that whatever I put in that book, I can do.
Right.
Because there's too many. Like I could easily blame the federal government and what's happening there. I could blame the mayor. I could blame city council member. I could blame a lot of people and get a lot of credit for just shooting at other people. But I decided no. What I want to do is like, can I put a plan out there in which the recommendations and what can happen are things that I have some level of control over, or at least can influence. Can I influence these? There's something called like the IBX, Dominique. The IBX is a light rail that is supposed to move from Bay Ridge through parts of Brooklyn that don't have transportation, like Canarsie and Mill Basin and so forth, East New York, and then head north to Queens. And I am not the governor or the mayor in being able to affect that. But my role in the land use process, in appointing community board members, I can influence this process in a real way. So I put that I care about this and I want it to happen, and I'm going to be using my resources to make it happen. But everything in the comprehensive plan, I have some level of control over, or have significant influence over. So
Mm,
that was important for me too. So this 400-page book are all things that can happen and I can make happen.
I love it. I love it. It's
And
it's
the
calling
accountability,
back to basics.
yeah, and the accountability falls on squarely on me. So
Mm,
if like things don't happen, you could point at me for what's happening there. Like trees, I could buy trees and I could pay for trees through the tax dollars that I receive. So if Brownsville doesn't have trees, I could give them 1,000 trees overnight by paying for it. So like when they're like, oh, they don't have trees still, what's happening? It's like that's on me. I got to get to work on that. So like I want to
mm.
make sure that people know what I'm responsible for and can hold me accountable.
How long did it take for you to research the needs of the community to create this comprehensive plan? And sort of what were the, I guess, important pathways to dialogue so that folks can so grandma with the two kids can be able to reach out to you or reach out to your team in order to articulate the needs of the neighborhood or of the community.
So we're in our second iteration of the of the comprehensive plan. The first one
Mhm.
took 2 years. And the way we got it done was we use a lot of data and research from, we had a task force, and the task force was filled with a bunch of, we call them nerds. I'm a nerd too, Dominique, so I don't say that in any disparaging way. The nerds got together and pulled from public files that exist throughout our city, state, and federal government that speak to the data that's happening on the ground. So we had the data. After we had it, we compiled it without any input. The data is what I call it's we don't discuss data. Data is data, but the data says something like what I talked to you. They said uh, uh, Bed-Stuy has the most parks in the city of New York. but the data doesn't say what type of parks those are, what type of parks we're
Got
talking
you.
about, the blacktop
Mhm.
and so forth. The people tell you that. So we go to Bed-Stuy and we're like, hey, you guys have the most parks. And then Ms. Johnson is like, oh, let me tell you about the parks we do have. One, they're
Mm,
not repaired. Go look at all these like, the bathrooms are destroyed. We can't even use them. It's all blacktop. We have no grass. So we use the people's. So what we use the people for is to inform the data we gave them. So we gave the data to all of them, and they saw it. And it's like, if you disagree with the data, you need to tell us why, and then
mm,
we'll modify the data to pay it to have your input that way. And it was unbelievable. These folks completely changed. They modified they didn't modify the data. They informed the data
yeah.
in such a powerful way that I think a lot of people dismiss. So there's always like either you're a technocrat and you're only like Bloomberg, only looked at the numbers and the data, never thought about the people,
Yeah.
or you're only talking about the people, like what I think is what Eric Adams does. He doesn't use any data. He's just like, who's screaming the loudest? I got to take care of them. So we have two extremes, and like somebody that doesn't use data and just wakes up and does whatever people tell him to do, and somebody that only uses data and doesn't care about people. So I'm like, I brought the middle. It's like, I'm going to use Ms. Johnson's testimony to better inform the data that does exist and come together. So we did that. We did borough-wide tours. We went to every single community board. We went on social media. Like, we did the best we could to get the most information. And the last thing is that there's a physical book that we do every time we do it. There's a physical one, but it's an organic document. So on our website, you can go right now and criticize any part of it, and we
Mm,
modify it
there we go.
like week to week. So somebody recently said something about freight in New York City, and they thought that we made some mistakes on the freight section. They submitted their comments, and we modified our freight section based on that. So it's a living document that continues to get changed based on information we receive, either data wise, data sets that change, or input from people that help inform the data.
Mm. Has this been done before in Brooklyn?
No, it's never been done before in Brooklyn or New York City. So there are some cities like Bogota, Colombia, London, Mexico City, Seattle, Los Angeles. They do, those cities all have done it. New York hasn't done it.
Mm,
And New York doesn't want to do it because it is an accountability document. The
yeah.
last thing they want to do is tell people how they can improve their lives and that we have full control over it and that we don't do it. Can you imagine that? Because they want to get reelected. Being reelected is more important to them than doing the work. So, like this, Park Slope. Park Slope has no issues. They're perfect. They have no problems. But people spend too much time over there because that's where the votes are. They're not spending time in Brownsville helping those people out because there's less votes. So what that document does is say we need to spend more time in Brownsville, and elected officials don't want to do that because they want to make sure that next in 4 years they're reelected. So they want to go pander to the people that they think where the votes are, and I think that that's part of the problem. That's a big problem. Like our politics is what controls our outcomes, not data. So it's never been done. I've been trying to push it, by the way, Dominique. I've been a crazy person saying we need a comprehensive plan. I'm
Yeah.
hoping the new mayor listens and can help us.
That's incredible. I think that this is gonna be really critical and crucial to, their survival and the ascension of Brooklyn, but also the trust factor in terms of local communities trusting, um, politicians
Yeah.
again.
Dominique, I just
Yeah.
want to say I think yeah, we're in a tough time, and
Yes.
nobody trusts us, and I get it. Like, you have to be blind to think that elected officials would be working for you. But we have, and that's why I think data is important and putting things on paper and letting people see it and letting people touch it. And so I get it though. I hope that I'm just trying to be a small example of that. I've
Mhm.
never worried about my politics. I mean, I do whatever I want. I say what I think is in my heart or what's in my head and what I think is best. And I've been very successful in my career. And I was hoping that my I'm not like an example or model for future elected officials, the younger ones.
Mhm.
It's just like, do what's in the people reward you for being sincere, for being honest. When you disagree with them, tell them you disagree with them. When you did something wrong, apologize. Like, that's what people want. So part of the comprehensive plan conversation is also like, we can do better. Don't be scared. But I do want to say I do think there's a new crop of elected officials that are not that you would think, oh, these young people are in the streets, and the elected officials are not meeting the moment, I think, on a lot of these issues. And
Mhm.
what they're doing is pointing fingers at the top and
Yeah.
not holding themselves accountable to being able to see what they can do. locally, we can be doing a lot more too, and we're just not. And it's easy to point at Donald Trump or the Republicans.
Yeah.
It's easy, but it doesn't solve the problems that we have.
Yeah. And I really do hope that Brooklyn becomes this local, but also national model for community centered sustainability, where we are integrating, health and birthing justice and climate resilience and housing and cultural history, all the things so that we can feel what just know what it feels like to be cared for on a basic fucking human level,
Absolutely.
especially communities who are the most systemically impacted, Black and brown folks. So thank you so much for everything that you've elevated. And I'm gonna hold you to all this shit you talking.
Yeah,
And I
that's
hope,
what we're here for. I'm a You're gonna find out about me very quickly. Like I'm about the work. I am. Like I told you, I have a chip on my shoulder.
yeah.
And I want to show the work. Also, Dominique, we're getting recognized. We're gonna be in Mexico. So I just want you want to see how Brooklyn is on the map. One,
Hmm.
my land use staff, it was our office, but I call it my land use staff because
Okay.
elected officials like to take too much credit. My land use staff got awarded a New York City like planning award for the work that they did on the comprehensive plan. So already
Okay.
like in the city, they're recognizing it. And Mexico, we just got invited to go to Mexico with Bogota, Colombia, and Mexico City that have their own plans. And they're
Mm,
using the Brooklyn comprehensive plan as a document in which I'm going to be invited to. So only those three cities are going. And they're bringing me as an executive. They're not bringing the mayor of New York City. They're bringing the president of the borough of Brooklyn and his comprehensive plan. So the three of us are sitting at the table like equals, even though we are not, all
mm,
because of the work that we're doing on this comprehensive plan. And it's Brooklyn. They're saying Brooklyn has a comprehensive plan,
mm.
and we want to talk about it. So just letting you know that internationally, nationally, and state and citywide, we are starting to be recognized as the borough that has a plan. So we're going to keep that up as not only a cultural capital of the world, but also a planning capital.
Awesome. Thank you.
Got
This
you.
is a beautiful start. And now you have a responsibility, and I hope more folks are looking and leaning into you and being able to be transparent with you and your team on everything that's happening for our survival, for our safety, and our sustainability. So thank you so much, Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso.
Thank you, Dominic. Appreciate you and spread love. It's the
Of
Brooklyn way.
course. Oh, I ain't letting you go yet. I ain't letting you go
Ah,
yet.
okay,
Last
okay.
thing,
Yes, yes.
what we're doing this season at the end of every episode, I'm doing a sustainability soundtrack. So I have a couple
Okay,
of rapid fire questions for you.
go. Let's
All
get it.
right.
Yeah.
What song is bringing you joy right now?
I have a Bad Bunny song. It's
Mm,
called En Nueva York that I think is awesome. It respects our history while seeing the future.
I love it. I love it. What song is healing when you're going through a challenging time?
I have a and sorry, I'm very Dominican, so I have a
That's okay. Don't
okay,
apologize. You better
okay.
rap.
Yeah, I have a bachata song that I listen to that is about a man from the countryside
Okay.
and moving to the city and like his progress in making that happen. And again, never forgetting where he came from and know where he's going. And it's just thinking about yeah, I'm very connected to my island and my culture, and I think that's a very powerful story, and it always
Mm,
keeps me grounded.
I know that's right. Wait, did you say the name of it?
The name is de la Iguela a la capital.
Okay.
I believe.
Perfect.
And I might have to call you to fix that and see if I got the question the song wrong, but I'll get you the right song.
Okay, because I have to add it to a physical playlist, so
Oh,
I
okay.
need
So
the
I'm gonna
right
get you.
right song.
I'm gonna get you the song. I got
Okay,
you.
perfect. And
Yes.
then the last one, what song sounds like sustainability?
What song sounds like sustainability? Jay Z has a song, and I got to
Mm,
get the right one. But Jay Z has a song that he talks about what happened in Hurricane Katrina. And when I think about it, yeah, he really speaks to like the politics of everything versus the humanity of it all. And
uh-huh.
like when you talk about sustainability, it's like you could have helped us, you could have showed up.
Mm,
And he messed up and didn't show up the right way. So there's some level of accountability there as
mm.
well. But he talks about how we failed to show up for people the right way. And I just think about that song, and I think it's one of the best songs he's ever written. And that verse that he has in it is one of the greatest verses that he's ever rapped. So I'm gonna get you that one as well because I don't. The name of the song is escaping me, but that song is a sustainability centered song.
Awesome. Ooh, okay, this is great.
Yeah.
And then lastly, and you mentioned this earlier, but you can relift it up. How can people be connected with you and or your office and the work that you're doing?
The most important thing, Dominique, is community boards. Like you can physically show up, be appointed to a position in which you can speak out for your neighborhood. And we make that happen. So you want to get involved in Borough Hall, just be part of our like intro to civics. Be part of the ground game that communicates to us on how we should be working. So I want people to join the community board. The applications are out right now. We're gonna have a huge turnover because there's term limits in the next couple of years. So we need a bunch of people to come out. And
Mm,
if sustainability is at the foundation or
mm.
principle that you abide by, that is something that I look for in the appointments that I make. So make sure sustainability is somewhere in your application process. But that's one way that they can get engaged with our office.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And y'all, please tap in, please get involved. This is critical to, again, our survival, our sustainability, our healing, and our joy. And thank you. That is a wrap.
Thank you. Great job, Dominique.
If this conversation moved you, share this episode and help us grow a future where sustainability begins with protecting Black life from birth. See you next time.
Compost and cotton and cornrows.
We've turned nothing to gold since the birth of our soul. It's ingrained in our room. Black is more than flesh and bone, planted deep in our code, and we bear the fruit. Yeah, they wonder how our strides so bold, and our pride stone cold after all we've been through. Rich as the texture of our crown, crown, crown. We pass it on to the youth.